Welcome to the Energyst podcast. I'm Tim McMahon-Smith, editor of the Energyst. Today I'm joined by Anthony Ainsworth, Chief Operating Officer, and Vish Sharma, Head of Power Purchase Agreements at Empower Business Solutions.
Hi Tim, great to be here.
Hi Tim, really nice to be here.
With ambitious clean energy targets and a commitment to deliver on its election manifesto pledges, the new government has announced several measures that it believes will accelerate the low-carbon transition. Independent energy generators, those organisations that own and operate an asset either as a primary business or as a commercial on-site project, will play an important role in supporting this transition. But do they believe the policies announced go far enough? In this podcast, Anthony and Vish will discuss their new report, Clean Power 2030, Harnessing the Power of the UK's Independent Energy Generators. The report asks the views of 350 of the UK's independent generators about barriers to the development of more projects and what they would like to see in the future. We recently had the publication of the autumn budget, which followed several other energy sector announcements. What do you think has been announced so far, and how does it impact both businesses and energy generators?
Well, thanks for the invite to be with you today, Tim. I think I would give the government an A for effort so far. They've certainly been very busy since they came to power. So they've committed to a clean power system for 2030. We've had the launch of Great British Energy. The National Energy System Operator has gone live. We've got the Mission Control Centre for Clean Energy. There's been 1.6 billion of new CFDs put out there, approval for 4 mega solar sites, and we can go on. But if we look at what is needed to deliver that clean energy system, then there are some significant multiples of the renewable generation capacity that we currently have. So we would need to see over the next 5 to 6 years a 5-fold increase in flexibility in the system, a 4-fold increase in the number of battery storage units that are hooked up. But here's the bit where it really matters for independent generators. We need to see a 4-fold increase of offshore generation to close to 50 gigawatts, a 3-fold increase in onshore solar to almost 50 gigawatts, and a 2-fold increase in onshore wind to something like 30 gigawatts. If we can do those, then by 2030, roughly 80% of energy generation and consumption in the UK will be from renewable sources. So A for effort, but at the moment, you know, the jury is out, and our survey says people are just a little bit unsure yet whether all the pieces are in place to make those changes happen.
And what would you say is preventing the targets being hit?
I think the appetite is there from different parts of the system. So our previous surveys and working with our business customers saying they really have the appetite for investing in green power. So if you are a CFO, you want low-cost energy. If you are a COO, you want a reliable, robust supply of energy. And if you're the CEO, then, of course, you want both of those things, but you also want low-carbon, reliable energy as well. So from a business side, there's a massive pull for it. Mm-hmm. And then on the generator side, again, there is a real appetite, and there are projects in the pipelines to provide that renewable energy. But what we're finding is between those two and the planning system, there's just too much red tape and slowing things down. And that's, I think, the critical point that needs to be addressed.
What led Empower Business Solutions to conduct this research?
So we have about 20,000 business customers, and those customers that we serve power about 16% of the UK GDP. So it's a meaningful segment, and we're really close to their needs and wants and helping them shape their energy strategies. Now, having had that knowledge, we also work with a number of independent renewable generators. And what we wanted to do is get their opinion out there, understand what the voice was of those independent generators, hence the survey of about 350 of them recently. And again, it's businesses want that renewable energy. They want to be able to invest. They want policy certainty over the medium term because they're used to investing and planning returns. And then the generators want the policy landscape and the planning landscape to match. So doing the survey has really unearthed some of the critical pieces that will help get to a net clean energy system by 2030.
And is this the other side of the coin of the NPower Business Energy Index, which looks at the customers' views? So now you've got both sides of the...
Yeah, absolutely. And we work both ends of the markets there. So we supply customers power and gas and some other services, but we also provide services for independent generators to give them a route to market, which we can then back off against those business customers.
So Vish, could you talk us through some of the findings of the latest report?
Hi Tim, thank you. So following the Clean Power announcement from government, we wanted to hear directly from our customers, which are our generators, and share with government the findings of the challenges that they face, because those are going to be key to unlocking this rapid, ambitious growth that we're going to now go on. So, I mean, there were lots of interesting findings, but I'm going to pick on three top findings within the survey. Mm-hmm. Firstly, we interviewed 350 generators, and 63% of those generators wanted to reduce the amount of red tape. Now, by that, essentially, we mean planning consent and grid connections. The second stat, which was quite interesting, was that 56% of the generators we interviewed wanted more financial support to develop new assets. And I guess that comes from a context of some of our smaller generators no longer being able to be eligible for FIT, and some of our larger generators up until AR6 not really having access to capacity in the CFD auction.
So we're thinking here grants and incentives like that.
Indeed, yes. And also capital is global. You know, you could invest in an asset here or you can invest in an asset elsewhere. And if you look across the pond to some of the tax incentives for renewable there, we've got to challenge for finance. So, yeah, that really is on some of our customers' minds. And the third point, which came out in the survey, which was really interesting, was that 31% of those that we surveyed asked for further corporate PPPA market development. And that actually links to the second point around financial support, because essentially generators are looking to the CPPA market to actually underpin the financing for building new assets.
So could you explain a bit more about power purchase agreements and how the market can develop?
Sure. Okay. So firstly, the power purchase market is not new. We've been offering PPAs for 20 years and we provide a route to market for our generators. So that's been there for a while. I think what's changed over the last few years is the fact that now generators and customers are starting to contract directly. So rather than through suppliers into the market, are putting in place direct relationships over the long term, which is underpinning financing new assets. So that's been an interesting development that came out in the survey.
So why should the government listen to independent generators and what they have to say?
Well, essentially, to meet the ambitious 2030 targets, and they are incredibly ambitious, it's going to be the independent generators that are going to play a critical role in delivering that. And so it's quite interesting, actually, in the survey that the themes and the challenges that were cited by generators are exactly, actually, the same challenges that NESO pulled out in their report and their advice to government in meeting the challenge. So those key three themes are planning consent, grid connections, and securing financing to meet the amount of build, as Anthony's gone through, the doubling, trebling, quadrupling stats in such a short space of time.
And can the government do that?
Can the government do that? It is extremely ambitious. So an A, as Anthony says, for the ambition. Whether or not it's realistic and it will be achieved, I don't actually think that matters so much, because to be honest, you know, even if we're 95% of the way there over the next 5 years, that would be an amazing achievement. You know, I've been in the energy industry for 25 years, and what we're essentially saying is that all of that renewable development that I've seen, in 25 years, in the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to be doubled, trebled and quadrupled again. And that is incredible.
So shooting
ambition.
for the stars, and it's,
And you might hit the moon.
Don't get too hung up on a percent here or there.
Exactly. That's what I would say. So the intent is fantastic. It's a great opportunity for our independent generators, and it's a great opportunity for businesses, because from a business perspective, a lot of our businesses have got ESG targets. A lot of them have got targets specific for 2030. And if we see a massive ramp up of renewable generation coming to market that they can contract directly with, it gives them a fantastic opportunity for meeting some of their targets. We've also got Scope 2 carbon reporting standards, which are potentially going to change over the next couple of years. And that might lead to those business customers potentially needing to have more traceable energy. So again, the government ambition can be hugely positive for business as well. However, I think one thing to note, and this will be really, really important for businesses, is that businesses will want the confidence, and as will domestic consumers, that going on this super accelerated path doesn't end up costing us more than perhaps a slightly slower path. And that as well is going to be key to keeping people on side with this ambition.
And Anthony, what do you think why government should listen to the generators, independent generators?
So the ambition is clear for a clean energy system powered by 80% of renewables by 2030. And Fish says, if they get there or thereabouts, it'll be a massive shift from where we currently are. I think we've gone from about 15% renewables 10 years ago to almost 50% now, and another 6 years would take us towards that 80%. So, that's fantastic progress and a really clear ambition. I think what we'd want government to hear is this, that the business demand for clean energy is there, and clean energy drives jobs. Jobs drive national wealth, but clean energy will also drive national health as well by reducing carbon. So that's incredibly important. But our survey really clearly says that without moving the planning blockers and cutting red tape, this is going to be more difficult than it needs to be. So they've announced some ambitions, they've announced some bold initiatives, but they really need to get after planning reform if this is going to come good for a clean energy system, more jobs, more prosperity, and actually a healthier nation.
Given that it's only roughly 5 years to the 2030, will they be able to lift them in that time and have an impact?
Yes, there are sufficient projects in the pipeline to get us towards those targets. Mm-hmm. There'll be some more added, but what it can't have is the 10, 15, 20-year planning waits for things. So cut the red tape, accelerate the planning, which only a national government can do with all the interdepartmental agencies. If they do that, I think the confidence levels will go up enormously. Because right now, our survey for the independent generators says something like 2/3 of them are unsure whether this will make the breakthrough because of those planning reforms.
So it's all about planning and red tape, really.
Absolutely.
I think so. And Tim, we have seen some encouraging signs. So at the end of July, I think the Secretary of State green-lighted 3 large strategically important solar farms. And so that's a fantastic start. And actually, I had a flick through the circumstances around those, and there is a lot to overcome with regard to planning. I kind of looked at the objections to some of those developments, and it's absolutely incredible in terms of from MP, from community groups. I think one of the developments was next to a racecourse, and so the local community had commissioned a psychiatrist to basically say that the horses would be spooked by the glare of the solar panels. So this is the level of resistant
and detail.
Detail. So really, it's about community engagement. That it's not just about saying, look, we're just going to consent stuff against the will of the people. I think it's more the point of engaging the community, bringing them along on the journey,
giving them ownership of the project in some sense.
Yeah, I think there's clear benefits if you can engage the local communities for sure, and even giving them a stake. in some of the generation, and in fact community energy can reduce the cost because you can avoid some of the network charges if you do things locally. So there are some definite benefits from that, but this is a national project and it's one of strategic importance with strategic benefits for prosperity and health, and you have to tackle it at a national level and make some pretty bold decisions there.
So lots to do, but lots of ambition to do it with.
Yes, absolutely. So we're encouraged. We stand ready to play our part in it. I think Vish and his team are going to be very busy over the next few years. And there is a good pipeline out there for independent generators to bring them to market. We just want to help them get there faster.
Brilliant. Thanks to both of you for such an interesting conversation.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
And if a listener wants to find out more about the report, where should they go?
The report is Clean Power 2030, Harnessing the Power of UK's Independent Energy Generators. And you can find it on our website at npowerbusinesssolutions.com.
Many thanks. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. And to find out latest news and views, go to theenergyst.com. Thank you.